And you know what? We're back with another episode of IndieSeen. I mean, it's crazy. Sujewa, I'm spending more time with you nowadays than with my family, which is
Nice.
almost not an exaggeration. But we're here.
Emergency episode. A movie is launching.
It's an emergency implies that there's a problem. This is an unexpectedly delightful episode, an emergent episode, not an emergency. But we're here.
Every indie film release is like an emergency because you know what? People have not done enough to promote it, myself included. I'm like the last 2 weeks prior. Where's the press coverage? So it's always an emergency. So we're trying to cure that problem.
Well, what we are here to talk about tonight is a film that we actually, you and I had a kind of an in-depth discussion a few months ago about Steve Martini's film,
That's right.
BitterSweet. And now we have Steve himself and his wife, Gabriela Kulaif, who you're both actors in the movie. Gabriela, you are a producer on the movie. And Steve, you wrote and directed the film. So very excited to get to talk to you about the process of bringing this film to life, what it's about, some of the themes, the fact that this crazy movie is based on a true story. So I want to know all about that. And also to promote, yeah, and to promote the fact that there's going to be a series of special screenings starting next week at Laemmle Theaters. They're going to be on Tuesday the 10th, the 11th, and then also on the 13th, different venues from Laemmle. And also 2 of those screenings are going to have Q&A. So we'll talk a bit more about that later in the show. But first of all, Steve and Gabrielle, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you.
Go ahead.
It's getting a little crazy, the baby's going out to fly now. So
nice.
Yes. So this is, I know there was a special screening of this a few months ago. But this is what we're doing now is we're talking about the official release of the film, right?
Yes, this is the premiere of the film in the theaters. So it's a huge thing. Yeah.
And it's those special screenings plus June 10th through 19th in those 3 theaters. We'll have the link down below, right, Ian?
Yeah, it's down there right now. You can go and get tickets and show times and which theater the screening is going to be at and info on the Q&As and all that stuff. So yeah, get there now.
So this is our theatrical release. We're going to be, at least we know, from the 10th to the 19th, and then if things snowball, if miracles occur, if the world wants to get out of the house and see movies in theaters and we can be a part of that, great. But we know for sure that we're going to go on to streaming and TVOD.
Yeah, so you can
AVOD, all that stuff.
Pre-buy it from the 20th of June until the 10th of July, and then it's going to be available in mostly I think Apple TV and Amazon Video.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to hear back from some streamers.
If you guys want to follow us, on our Instagram page, which is BitterSweet the film, then we're gonna keep posting everyone when it's gonna be and where it's gonna be.
Yeah, people should go see it at theaters. The VOD might get moved down if theatrical extends, and all movies are like 10 times better in the movie theaters. So if you're in LA area, go to the theater. I mean, even my own movies, it's a different experience watching it at the theater. I'm like, wow, I made that all right.
Well, that's certainly how we all grew up with it. And I always say, for me, the church began when the credits started rolling up. And if you sat there and just watched the credits in awe, studying all these humans that were a part of this as a child, like I did, to me, that was church. Mm-hmm. And so I've always loved just sitting there until the end and trying to see how the heck this magic trick happened, and when you're in a room full of people experiencing that together, there's nothing better.
And you did this movie to a special event in Cannes, right? How did that trip go?
Well, our Cannes was, you go to Cannes for a few different reasons, right? But we were specifically going to meet some,
We went to Marché the film, which is the
marketplace,
and then we were there during the festival, but our film was showed in the
for
market,
some distributors,
which happens where the festival was happening. It's all the same building, in this beautiful like palace. And some people that are in the festival, they come watch, you know, like the movie. So it's kind of like separate but together at the same time.
You can step on the red carpet.
Nice. So you had a good time with the movie at Con?
I had a great time at Con itself. You have to kind of navigate your way around the way people treat you. A certain, there's a certain amount of, people
tears.
Yeah, there's tears, and I don't enjoy that kind of thing. So you have to find your own angle to enjoy it.
Yeah, whenever you go to a fest or a screening, you can always do a lot of video. I know you did, Stephen, and take a lot of photos, and those could be used down the road to promote the movie. Saying, "Oh yeah, we were at Con with the movie," for a special marketing thing.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're indie film, obviously you're doing everything yourself as much as possible until something else comes along like distribution that will help out. So luckily we're crossing that barrier.
Awesome.
Well, let me ask about that, because I mean, Cannes is like a big dream for a lot of filmmakers. How did you get your movie to the Cannes Film Festival? What was that process like?
So first you need to have a production company and prove to them that you have a movie, that you have a feature film, which is not for everyone that has it, right? Which is a good way of still, like making sure everybody that is there is legit, like has a production company and has a movie, like a finished movie.
Yeah, and this is the market part, not the main festival.
We're talking where we've been, which was like the Marché du Film, which is the market. But every year it happens with the festival. So we also get tickets for the festival. So we are part of the festival. We're not, right. We didn't get into the festival because, we just finished our movie at the time. But then you have screenings for the people that are there for the market, like, right. And so that's how it is. And because it's all mixed up, of course, it's super glamorous, and you meet a lot of people there, like directors and actors, everybody's there. It's very crowded. But basically for the market, the film market, which is where we've been in Cannes, that's what you need. You need like a feature film, and you need a production company. You need to prove to them that you have that.
You'd be surprised how many people fake that part.
No, the production company part?
Just even having a film.
We had some friends that wanted to come and like act, and just actors, and they couldn't come because we already got we had 6 people from our production company with us. So they, we couldn't give them more tickets, and they couldn't do it, they could pay for it, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have what it takes, which is a finished movie.
Yeah. But then on top of that, it is expensive. Once you're there, holy crap.
Yeah, we interviewed Raphael Sbarge, who was competing at Cannes with the movie on a few days ago, I think Sunday, right? And that was very interesting hearing about that. Anyway, when did the film get finished, and how many screenings have you done so far?
So we only had screeners, festivals. We didn't, and we had one for the crew and family. And it's been officially finished because we had to
January
do some sound and everything in the beginning of the year, which is
January.
after,
Was that what our DCP says? January.
Yeah, because I think we did a show on it in February, right? Was it February? Yeah. And it's
exactly.
That was June. Time flies.
We had a Valentine's Day screening at Washington D.C. Film Festival, and that was we were beginning our film festival circuit, and it's great, man. You get to see it with people and witnessing it for the first time. My biggest surprise with seeing it with people is they're not looking down at their phones, which is amazing. I'm like, oh wow, they're digging it, even in the the quiet moments that you always worry about when you're a filmmaker. The breath of fresh air, those moments when you're like, I don't know if they really know what's happening here, but you put it in because your soul tells you that that's the right moment. And, they weren't looking up. They weren't looking at their phones. They were looking at the screen. So it was really nice.
It's a well-made movie. Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, I feel like for special screenings and particularly independent films, you get a different kind of audience and a different kind of audience engagement than you will if you're going out to the local AMC to see the next, Marvel movie or something. That's disposable entertainment. When you're seeking out going to, for lack of a better term, an art film or an independent film, you really want to be there. You want to absorb something, either the entertainment or the knowledge of how this all came together. So yeah, I think that's one of my that's one of the things that gives me hope about the future of the movie going experience is, for as much as it can be lousy going to a mainstream theater, there are still places that respect the reverence, that kind of church-like atmosphere that you mentioned, Steve, at the beginning, where people still respect and are really locked into what they're seeing and why they're there. I do want to kind of ask, well, we discussed the movie as we mentioned a couple of times, but for those who are just joining us and wondering why they should go out and check out this crazy movie BitterSweet starting next week, what can you give us a synopsis of what it's about, and then we'll kind of get into the background of how it all came together.
Do you want to do it? So this is first, like, it's a very artistic film. Like, I think Steven is an amazing screenwriter, and it's amazing to watch it in the theaters because it's so artistic that watching that like in a big screen, like it's not like any regular, like it's really special to see like the way it was shot and the film itself in a big screen. So that's one reason to watch it at the theaters instead of at home, and the movie is about like this family that gets separated, and it's based in real life. And
I always say it's about a new dad who gets kicked out of his house, and
he's undiagnosed in autism. He has autism, but he's not diagnosed at the time. It's not like clear that he has autism, and he falls into the system, with the CFS.
A Kafka-esque legal system, which he must navigate and traverse in order to get back home to see his family again. And
the system where they have trials in children's schoolrooms.
Yeah, exactly. and so, we had gone through a situation where, where something like that kind of happened to us. Well, I mean, pretty much that's what happened. And, it was very clearly, as it is in the film, a mistake and something that is not why the system is in place. The system is in place to protect people, it's a very serious issue, which we certainly learned about. But our situation, I immediately found it comedic just because it was so ridiculous. And so clearly, not what the system is in place for. And then in our situation, when the cops don't fully understand what everybody's saying, things can just escalate and get worse. And so that's based on a true story. But as I said, it was very quickly sort of ruled out and seen as something that shouldn't be in here. But once you're in the system, you're in the system. So we started meeting other people, other families, because you have to go through these like programs, and you meet social workers who knock on, when a social worker can knock on your house any time of the day, and you don't know if it's going to mean whether or not you're going to be thrown out of your house or what's going to happen. That to me is inherently, I'm like, that's any movie. You can go any which genre to make a movie out of that, So I was just obsessed with meeting these social workers and talking to the other families who were in way worse situations, and so it was a matter of the artistry that she's talking about. I think is threading your own voice, and adding your own soul to the situation of, okay, how am I going to tell this story in a way that's really my way? Because I could see a million other ways the story could go, in other genres, and straight down the middle. There's always the studio version or the Hallmark movie version that you think, okay, if I'm just going to write that version, how would it go? And I do think like that, but then I immediately want to swerve and, go in other directions, and, you find your own kind of voice, but to honor the absolute absurdity of the situation, which I kept saying, wow, this is really funny if it wasn't so tragic and sad.
So let me ask. Go ahead. No, you, sir.
The reason you're on IndieSeen is because you didn't take the studio path. If it looked dull like a studio movie, both Ian and I would have been like, let's skip on this one.
Well, I got to say, we did have a chance with the script. You know, we had it. We sent it to.
I had a friend that she worked for Netflix for several years, like over 10 years, and in the acquisition, and she read the script and she fell in love with the script, and she wanted to just do it with Netflix, and Steven didn't want it, you know, because then we would totally like lose any control and power. So
I've just been around the block to know right away, you know, okay, thanks.
How many hundreds of millions were they offering?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we'll take your script, but yeah, sure, we're going to find a director, we're going to find a star, and pretty soon it's not going to be your script. I've been there a million times. So I just said, you know what, this is not for that.
Like that's this story. Like, we'll be happy he has other amazing scripts, you know, like that we're open to. But that story, like, it was so personal.
It was made personally, like I think I said to you before. I had made in indie films is my, you know, like once you learn how to make your own film, you know, there's no going back. Mm-hmm. And I was at the point in my life where I said, we just wanted to make a movie we could roll out of bed and shoot with our iPhones in our house. Mm-hmm. You know, so I kept thinking that small, even though the story obviously wants to grow, and that's the battle. But you know, that was really the intention ultimately. It's that indie film kind of spirit thing, you know.
Yeah, it's super hard to stay small. I got a new camera. Now I'm thinking maybe I could do a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. So it's super tempting to increase and increase and increase. At some point, you have to say, this is enough. We got to get it done.
Well, that's what I always tell screenwriters. It always starts there. And that's the biggest, you know, it hurts the most as a screenwriter when you can see a scene, you write a scene, but it's too expensive to shoot that scene, you know. So anyway, I certainly wrestle with that all the time.
I think
Let me ask this, Gabriela, this is mostly to you. When you both were going through this, the drama that inspired the comedy, Steve said it was so absurd that it just became absurdly funny. How did you react in that situation without getting too personal or too specific? Was it a matter of you both are going through it, he finds it funny, but you're like, there's nothing funny about this. How can you turn this into a comedy screenplay? Or were you on board? Like, were you both like, this has to be a joke?
So it wasn't funny at all. It was one of the worst things that ever happened in my life. Very traumatic. I'm still recovering from it. But what happened, at least like in my perspective, is that like he wrote the script and I don't believe like he wrote it to be funny, but it just became like funny because it was so absurd in certain parts of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like, because I tell people like when I'm producing that like we have to just like let this script, like this soul, which is the script, like flourish into whatever being that is supposed to become, like a person, you know, like you have a son, a kid, a daughter, you're not gonna like make them be what you want them to be. Mm-hmm. You have to hold space and do whatever you have to do to like nourish them and give what they need to become the best version of themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how I saw the script. I'm like, it's just becoming what it has to become. And the comedy just came naturally from it. Like, I couldn't believe it was a comedy, and it was part of like a huge like healing for me, you know, for us to like such a drama, you know, you can see those scenes and everything that happened with you and laugh about it and really be like, just make it a lighter, you know, like emotion coming out of it. So it was like the art, it really helped us to heal. But like, yes, like that's how I perceive like the whole like process.
I can
go ahead, sorry.
No, you well, I can just say, just on that same note, like when we got this is post-production now. If you jump to post-production, when we got, you know, I had to do the first cut myself, you know, which is like 2.5 hours long, you know, because I wanted every moment to be sing and every actor to have his, you know, scene, and it wanted to be my script. I knew eventually I was going to hand it over to a real ninja editor, right? and we were waiting for our money to come back from SAG because it was SAG ultra low budget, and we didn't have the post-production money. So I took the time to edit the first rough cut myself, the director's cut. And when we finally got the money back, we got a Blumhouse Ninja editor, a guy whose his work is, you know, he did Unfriended. I don't know if you saw that. The whole thing is on a computer monitor. It's
right.
cheap. And I said, I'm going to give this guy my 2.5 hours, and I trust he's going to do his thing. And he, you know, 8 weeks later, it was 85 minutes long, the movie, right? And we didn't miss anything. Didn't miss anything. But I will say the music cues he used, this is getting to my point, the music cues he used were very sort of that, you know, deep and sad. It was just like Sigur Rós almost, you know,
the
like
first version was
very sad. It was very, very sad, like just like profoundly sad, and which is truthful for what the situation was, right? So again, that's that artistic soul searching thing. Is I just kept saying, you know what, my voice needs to bring levity and lightness to these sort of tragic, sad things. And so we spent the rest of our time in post-production, you know, with different editors and changing music specifically to bring the comedy levels up, you know, because otherwise it really is so sad. I kept thinking, you know, I knew the ending of this movie was going to be something, you know, the return home in the end is a happy thing. So so anyway, so that's just a real balance of the, I think, the artistry and the, you know, the filmmaking.
I thought it was always like a family comedy, like Flirting with Disaster, with all kinds of crazy things about to happen. So I like that. It wasn't a dull or too dramatic family comedy. Those, you know, are difficult to watch and enjoy.
Thank you. I appreciate that you got that, because that's definitely a huge inspiration, that kind of voice for me, you know.
I almost think there should be, like, if there's ever a physical media release, or maybe even not, just if you still have it, release the melancholy cut, where you have the music, the movie, the same movie with the sad music, because I think that'd be fascinating. I'm trying to imagine this movie with super serious scoring to it. I can't imagine.
You know, $1,000 download for rich sad people.
Well, we both actually thought for a while. We were like, "Is this it? Are we just done?"
It was hard for me, like, to watch it the first time, because the music was sad, and it happened with me. You know, like, it was sad, and I was like, "Shit, that happened with me." So I was depressed for like about 3 days, like depressed. It was kind of like the marriage story.
Yeah, marriage story. You know,
like heaviness, you know, in my chest, and then after, like, we did like feel more like the music, and we had like other editors working on it, and then like it became like they kind of like brought up, like, because there was funny parts, it was just not like, it's a drama, right? Like it is a drama, right?
It's a dramatic situation told through an absurd kind of lens. I don't know. It's like,
it's a drama comedy. I mean, about a family situation.
I always have trouble putting things in boxes and all that stuff. You know, you do it to sell things, obviously, and in Hollywood, you do it to try and, you know, get an executive to understand what you're saying. But, you know, as far as executing these genres and all that stuff, it's always, you know, you're either going to be in the box or you're going to, you know, break the box open. I don't know.
It's a learning process, and the thing ends up becoming something else, like Gabriela was saying. I was editing my werewolf movie. I thought it was just to be a fast werewolf movie. Then I saw these shots of the actor walking at night for long takes. I'm like, oh, that's really creative and interesting. We're going to put all that in. So it became this slow cinema movie, completely unplanned. And Ian, when it played in Chicago, had a very positive response to it. He added to his best movies of 2019 list. So that gave the movie a huge boost. So had I not gone with what the movie was telling me, that wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
Stephen, you had some successes early in your career. You want to introduce your resume to people who might not know?
Oh, well, I guess people might know me most from my first film, which was Major Pain. It was like actually 30 years ago. Literally, it came out in 1995. And I was just a kid. I turned 19 while we were shooting that movie, and it's it's become a kind of cult classic comedy. But that was my foray into this whole world of making movies.
And then you worked on some other things, right?
Yeah, well, then that kind of brought me out to LA. I grew up in New York, and so that brought me out to LA. And I was acting, doing different TV shows and guest spots and stuff. And I had my own series on NBC for a while called Prince Street. It got canceled, so what happened is, when you're an actor for hire, just you're at everybody's beck and call, and you're begging, and you have no real ultimate power over your creativity, right? So I had all this money from this TV show that was canceled, and nobody could see the show, but I still had the energy of like, God, nobody's gonna watch my show. They can't even see. I was an undercover cop, it's like, come on. So then that's when I got together with my brother, and we spent like $40,000 to $50,000 making our first indie movie, and that was 1999.
Nice.
And we ended up winning the Toronto Film Festival in 1999. That was when American Beauty was there. Being John Malkovich.
That was a good year.
Matrix. That was a huge year of filmmaking. Anyway, so that opened up a screenwriting career for me.
And that's all. I mean, you won Toronto on a $50,000 movie that you would. I mean, that was some of the money that you had left over from the TV show, right?
Yeah.
So it is amazing how these kind of Hollywood stories work, because if the TV show had not been canceled, then you never would have made that movie. You never would have won, TIFF and all that, and we wouldn't have ended up here talking on this podcast probably. So yeah, that's really cool. I want to ask.
I remember something specifically when I was stuck. I was stuck in Toronto doing that show, and they wouldn't let, even though they were saying they were going to cancel it and not air these episodes. You had to shoot them anyway. It was like this torture, and they wouldn't let me out for to go audition for Terrence Malick, A Thin Red Line.
Good movie.
And I was like, that's the fever I had. And I'm like, this show did, it's like you're a tree falling in a forest, and like they're not even letting you like make a sound. You're like, what is going on here? So anyway, that's like, we got to make our own stuff. This is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of actors come to that conclusion that you have to become filmmakers to have any control over your career. Gabriela, how did you get into film?
Well, I've been an actress since 19. So I went to acting school back in Brazil for 3 years. At the same time that I did advertising. So I work on mostly like ad agencies. And then I moved to LA, and then I kept like, I thought I was a stage actress for a long time until BitterSweet. But I work like in so many different things, but mostly advertising, photography. I'm a Reiki teacher. I'm a yoga teacher. Nice. And then with Steven, like when he wrote the script and he said, I was going to help him to cast a Brazilian to play my part. I was really not like, I don't know why I wasn't even like thinking, I thought, but I don't know, like, I was like, I'm going to just help you to cast. Remember, like I showed you some actresses that could like, and then he said, "Oh, but I thought like maybe you could play your part. You're an actress." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that would be amazing." So I got an acting coach that I love him. Like, he's amazing. He has an acting school here. And then we run, like through the whole script and the lines for about like 3 months. And then I was ready to act on the film. It was my first film. It was amazing experience. I think like when I watch myself, I'm very critical with actors. I'm horrible. Like I'm always criticizing, like when I watch anything on TV, I'm like, oh my God, this is so fake. Oh my God. So when I watch myself in this movie, there's like few scenes that there's like one scene that I wish I could, no, two moments that I wanted to cut myself out of it. But,
you can't.
But I think for my first movie, like I have to give myself some credit.
You did really well. No one can tell it's your first movie.
Exactly. So I feel like, like, yeah, like it's fine. And then we act in this other horror movie right after. And I didn't even watch it because I don't watch horror movies. So I have no clue. I asked Steven, how was my acting? He was like, oh, you were good.
So wait, so after Sam, this is kind of funny. After Sam and Gigi, we went on to play Tony and Gio, who were like this shady couple showing up to an Airbnb with like a suitcase full of cash. Nice. And they show up to an Airbnb, and it's one of the trope of it's a double booked Airbnb, and then like shenanigans happen, horrible stuff happens. So we had to play these like criminals, go.
What?
It was fun. It was totally opposite of Sam and Gigi. So like therapeutically, it was a blast.
It's a horror movie,
but it's
very
what's it called?
Holiday.
It's called Holiday.
It's on Amazon.
We'll look for it. Might be something to watch after BitterSweet.
I don't know.
Look,
I didn't watch it. I can't.
Yeah, we're not. Both of us are not the horror watchers.
I'm not into horror either.
I am. I'll stand up for the genre.
My son watched it. He's 10 years old, and I told him we were in this horror movie. And then one day he came to me, and he was like, he knew we went to shoot in Vegas. We left them here with a nanny and their older brother. So one day he came to me and he said, Mom, I want to be an actor. And I'm like, oh, really? Oh, that's cool. And then he's like, yeah, I want to be like you and Dad. And you did so well in that horror movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I watch it. And I'm like, Leo, that's a horror. And he's like, it wasn't scary. You watch it.
She's great. She looks great. It was a first-time filmmaker. You want to, I love acting. I'll show up. If you give me some meat to chew on, I'll give 150%, So it was just something that we wanted to act together, and we got paid to act. There's nothing better than showing up on set and everything's already done for you if you're lucky.
Sure. Yeah. Gabrielle, I want to ask about, it was one kind of hurdle to see a screenplay written, about something tragic that happened in your life and have it come out as this, again, Kafka-esque kind of dramedy. It's another thing to step into the shoes of playing yourself, going through this stuff again, or at least a heightened version of that. Was there any, and you said you're at the top that you're kind of still processing what's going on. Was this kind of therapeutic, or did it help kind of reframe any of the things that had happened during that time while you're dramatizing the events?
So basically, what happened is during the filming it, was just fun. We had an amazing crew. The cast was fun. It just felt like fun acting. Of course, there's the seriousness behind it.
I just want to say the energy that she's the producer. The set, the energy was just everybody wanted to be on our set.
Yeah, it was just we shot the movie in 4 different blocks. 5,
6,
no 5,
including the test shoot. I included the test shoot. It was a test shoot.
But okay, so and the whole crew wanted to come back, and they were like ultra low budget paid, but they wanted to be back in the set because it was such a good energy. So honestly, it was just acting. Even it was myself, so it was easier, to play myself. It didn't trigger me. Maybe there is one scene that I can't tell, but when people after the movie's all there, I can talk about it. But there's one scene that I was like, oh, this is really bringing me to the whole story. Mm-hmm. But yes, but it was just fun. It wasn't.
I mean, you guys know. I mean, what's fun? What's more fun than making a movie? It's
right, not much.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Even when it goes bad, in retrospect, there are some fun things about it.
Oh, I was going to say also, what did bring to us as a healing process, mm-hmm. coming back to what your question is that I feel the movie itself brought Steven and I way to get it was kind of something was lacking in our existence together to create something.
Oh, guys, sorry. Are you there?
Yeah,
we're here.
It got scrolled over.
Click enough.
We see you.
Okay, you guys see us. Okay, let's just keep talking. Nothing happens.
You see us, but I want to see.
Try escape, maybe.
doing
Oh
it.
goodness, sorry.
Are you back on?
Yeah, we're on.
So hold on, let me see.
We can keep going.
Anyway, the answer is
Yeah, so it was
healing.
so it was like so it was very healing for a relationship. Like it was a bond that, you know, like we created between us, and we worked so well together. It was such a good flow, and it was just like that part was really like it was almost like it was always meant to be like that, and we didn't know. And in the beginning,
Well, it
and
wasn't
also like the diagnosis for the autism came
Right.
after that, which is something that I really want to bring with this movie. You know, like we've been through all that because Stephen didn't have like a diagnosis of autism before the movie, like an official diagnosis. And we went through all that. And after that, he got a diagnosis. And when he got the diagnosis after the movie, like everything like changed too, because I understood like his behavior. Like I'm like, oh, he's not an asshole, you know, like he's autistic. You know what I'm saying? Like because
Wait
like
a minute.
autistics, like, you know, like they are like they're different, and then sometimes you don't know like what the heck is going on, if it's personal with you, if like if it's their own.
I'm not an asshole if I'm disagreeing with you. I'm just disagreeing with you.
So like it's just like I hope families, and we've been having kind of a feedback on the festivals, like people like in the spectrum. I hope people that have like husbands or kids, or they're autistic, they're in a spectrum themselves, like that they can really feel like, you know, like, oh, this is not only with me, you know, like this is how it happens,
Yeah, right.
you know, like in a family, you know, like with people on the spectrum, you know, it's challenging, it's different, you know, like it's, yeah.
Well, let me ask you, because so the diagnosis of autism came after the movie was done.
No. It happened. Remember, it happened when we were seeing the therapist right after the. It was happening before when I was writing the script. It was when I was writing the script. Really, it was like during the process of the.
Oh,
remember,
Lord.
Dr. Leah?
Yeah, Dr. Leah.
Yeah. So it was like it was sort of like it was after. It was just during the whole process of processing.
I think it was.
But
he wrote the script before.
And then I had my family. It was coming out. My family. It was being diagnosed in my family. There was other people who were diagnosed with it, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then I started talking to my family too. And anyway, I had been born prematurely, and they thought I was going to die, and they always thought there was going to be something wrong with me growing up. And then I turned out to be just okay enough where they didn't back then. They didn't do those tests. I survived anyway.
So we had when we watched the movie the first time, we had a question about the use of autism in the movie, because the screener that we watched, it mentions it, and then it's not really addressed until much later for a little bit. Did you guys have other scenes that had autism related material in it, or at some point did you decide we're not going to mention it, we're just going to have a regular comedy?
Exactly what happened is that when he wrote the script, when everything happened with us and he wrote the script, right after we thought he could be in the spectrum because his niece is in the spectrum, is something that is genetic most of the time. And he's like his niece is in the spectrum, so we thought he could be. So he always thought he could be, but it was never a diagnosis, right?
But the script was never going to be about a guy discovering his autistic superpower. That was never never going to be that kind of a thing. I never wanted to do that, but it was always more like I don't like to be didactic, sort of hitting people over the head. Just sometimes I move around things and tell things differently. So like I just knew I wasn't going to tell that kind of story. I still kind of like it still feels like I'm being put in a box with a label. Mm-hmm. It was a while. So what you're getting at is it was Gabby's idea to set up the movie with the prefix with the quote with this. It says about
that made it super serious.
It was her idea to set. She always thought we have to set it up because I always said, well, it's in the text, it's in the form, it's in the thing. But she's like, it's not. People aren't that subtle. You need to like make sure they know. So it's a matter of what we're talking about, that didactic thing, or you said.
I think. Well, I was going to say one of the things that we discussed in our review, Sujewa, and this is kind of what you're talking about. Without that title card, it's because autism is not a focal point of the movie, kind of like what you're talking about, Steve. It's a dramedy about people going through some crazy misadventures that get them embroiled in the system. But Sam as a character has some pretty extreme behaviors, and he's kind of like off the wall, and there are some awkward situations, and he kind of makes things worse for himself, and that's where some of the comedy and the drama comes into play. But without the context of the autism, it is kind of like what you're saying, Gabriela, easy to think of this character as, well, he's just a jerk. Like, why am I getting invested in this guy when he could just be a, emotionally arrested man-child, who's ripping off his neighbor's Wi-Fi and doesn't know how to close an internet browser when something inappropriate's coming up, that kind of stuff. So that's, I guess, one of the things I was wondering is, in that hour that was cut out of the film by the editor, was there more of a focus on that aspect of the story, or was it just from the get-go, the story is what it is, and the title card was sort of a kind of a post idea to sort of set up that element?
Yeah,
I don't think there was.
Well, it was like, it's like, so I don't know if I made a film called Laemmle, and it's you could say it's about somebody who gets Lyme disease, and this was an issue I made with my brother. But like, the movie's not about Lyme disease. It's about this family struggling through their own like things and infidelities and stuff. And when me and my bro, we were writing that, it was always a battle of like, oh, we need to have scenes with the doctors. We need to have a scene with this, and explaining Lyme disease. And it was just something that, again, and I just sort of absorbed that process. And there were times when I wanted to go heavier on the Lyme disease in that movie. And, and when you're dealing with somebody else, like now I'm dealing with my wife. And so it's kind of the same thing where it's like, maybe this time I didn't want to go so heavy on that because, again, it's maybe the way I tell stories, but you're right. I think it's smarter, whatever it is, we figured it out.
Like, we never talk about autism during reading the script. It wasn't about autism.
But the
wasn't
character,
there. Like, it was there.
It was in the,
but it was undiagnosed.
Yeah. For the audience, just seeing that title as the first thing, we expect something entirely different. Then we have to get used to it being like a regular movie about a wacky guy and his family, right? So that's what we were thrown off by the title card. So
yeah, and I'm curious. People seem to really like it. Again, it's like they either get it or.
Yeah, just today I had a talk with a person that was just diagnosed in the spectrum, and she said, Gabby, saying that thing in the beginning is what, like, it brings so much awareness for a person in the spectrum, because then you see yourself in situations, like that you do in your daily life, and people call you an asshole, like, saying, like they can be seen as an asshole, but it's not, like, so I feel like to bring that consciousness and awareness to people in the spectrum and for people that live with them is like, it's priceless, like you can really help people. Like this girl that I spoke with her today, and she was like, it's such a thing to have brought that up and explain in the beginning, like she said, like it's really like helpful, for a person that goes through that to have that, like, oh, like this guy is in the spectrum, that's why he's doing all this shit, it's not like.
I remember something. So something I remember is, so the original title of the film, if you get this will help understand the script. It was originally, it was called Undomesticated. And so the notion of being domesticated was a theme. And the fact that this guy was like outside the box and yet trying to be domesticated by all these different systems, like that to me is still there. And then
that definitely so obviously the autism title works for some people, may not for others, but once you get into the movie, the cinematography is great, the scenes are interesting, so it becomes a secondary issue. How did you guys find the cinematographer? And the movie looks really good.
I found her. She's amazing. She made several movies already. And here and in Brazil, she's Brazilian. And then I just had a friend that told me about her, and then I met her, and she's an amazing person. I like her work, and and I work with her in another film I produced too here. And she was great too. Like, she's amazing.
And then she was the one who said, "So you think you're going to shoot this on an iPhone?"
Well, to
Really good.
Sujewa's point, I was watching it again this afternoon, and I was really struck this time by how great the movie looks. Earlier this year, I watched another film is based in LA called Scrap by Vivian Kerr, and that was another like kind of low budget family drama that also looked like $1 million. So I think both of these are great advertisements for independent film. Doesn't mean it has to look like it was shot on a phone or a cheap camera. You can do some amazing things without having a multi-million-dollar or multi-$100,000 budget.
Well, my DP convinced me to shoot on a red Dragon, although I wanted an Alexa because I had big eyes, but we couldn't afford it. But still, you make with what it's all about the story.
It looks really good. Modern tech is amazing. Even little, prosumer camcorders can make things look good.
But she also the coloring too. Like Gabby spent time. I'm colorblind.
Oh.
And I want to shoot myself at some point. If you're like, I can't look at this thing anymore. As the writer, I'm like, I did my job. I can't even. The color is not even like.
Yeah,
the poster work is very good. The color grading looks good.
Yeah, that was all. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it was a lot of work to do all those details. I'm very detailed, and it was like a lot of work. A lot of work. I didn't know it was going to be so much work. Like I wasn't expecting to watch this movie I don't know, 100 times. And and very all the details.
So this is what. So we, I say we did shot in 6 shooting blocks because I consider the first one. We did a test scene. I was like, when I wrote the script, I wrote it in this little in a cafe. And while I was writing it, the cafe has all like 10 different locations in the building. And I'm like, oh, that could be that can be the judge's office. This could be this. And I was pacing around and talking to the people. And so when it came time to, when we finished the script, we shot a test scene in the children's courtroom, right? In the play area. That's in the cafe, right? And so Gabby was there with me in the test shoot, and she watched me shooting it. It was just like a crappy thing, because I learned when I was in the Sundance labs, you take your most important scenes and you shoot them with the worst camera ever, and you just try and put them together. And you say, okay, what is this movie? And so I did that, and Gabby looked at the test scene, and she's like, this sucks. What are you doing?
No, everything, even the production, I was like, this is horrible. This is horrible. And he was so
and I was like,
upset.
this is my process, baby. I don't care how it looks.
She comes from advertising where everything is shot really well.
Exactly.
No, and he was like, we fought for like a week. It was horrible.
And I'm like, I let you into my process.
He was so upset that I was telling him it wasn't good. I was like, oh my God, we can't spend our money, because whatever he spends, I could be buying clothes for myself. And I'm like, I'm not gonna spend my money with this shit.
So I finally said, fine, you know what? If you got such good idea, you do it.
No, he said, do you want to produce it yourself? And then I was like, what? What? And then I sat with it, and then I thought of it, and then I was like, shit, I think I want to do it. I'd rather do it and do it well done than have somebody not doing it.
That was a good decision.
And now she had to watch it 1 million times to get the color right.
There you go. Yeah, when the movie started, I'm like, all right, let's see what this is. And then when the cinematography is so good, you stick with it. You give it more time, and then you can hook into the story. Now, what were the horrible aspects of making this movie that you don't want to repeat in the future, if any?
The color time? Can I say that again or no?
No, for me, for me, he made more movies, that was my first, and
she went on to produce another one, by the way.
It was like going to the film school. The lucky part of it is that I did a good job, at first. So, but I'll do many things. I think probably I'm gonna co-direct with Steven our next movie, because I saw so many things, during the post-production that I had to fix, that I'm like, shit, I'll never let this happen again during the shooting, I'm not talking about it. But anyways,
I offered her co-directing. Yeah. I offered the DP co-directing too.
I didn't take it because
nobody wanted it. I'm like, okay.
No, I don't want to take it because like when I direct something like
Oh.
from the get-go, then I can
Then she'll
sign
recast
my name
me.
in it. You know?
Well, this is a good way to start. I mean, good challenging project to start.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then she went on to produce another movie with Billy Baldwin and Terry Polo and Mina Suvari.
Yeah, and
She
that was
went-
easy to produce. It's very easy for me to produce, like in a way, like it's very natural. It's a lot of work, but it's very easy, and that went super smooth too. It was easier. It was like less locations and.
But what would you do next? Tell him you would be executive.
I'm just gonna hire a producer and be an executive producer or co-direct and tell them what to do, because like at the end of the day, when you produce something, it's all in your ass, you know, like anything that happens, it's my fault, it's my responsibility. I don't want to have all that responsibility, you know, like especially because also I like acting, you know, like I just like I can, now that I know how to make movies, you know, like I can hire somebody to produce it and oversee, right? Like and say, and I know what it's going on. I'm probably going to be super involved. So, like, what I would do different, like, I wouldn't produce it.
And get more money, get more money and more time.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
You mentioned Billy Baldwin. He's in this movie in a scene that I don't want to give too much away, but it does kind of pay homage to one of his brother Alex's famous scenes from Glengarry Glen Ross. Was that part of the script initially, or was that after you cast Billy Baldwin? You're like, oh, I'm gonna tweak this to make it an homage to that other thing.
So the film I spoke about before, Laemmle, I worked with his brother Alec.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and so I already wrote a part for Alec in that movie, and
Yeah.
Billy was a producer on that too. And so when this came around, I did think, oh God, I could get Alec, up there again doing something like that. And
so it was Alec's part.
But then he had been going through a lot of crazy stuff, and then it just became and then it just became very clear, like, oh, I knew Billy, and so like Billy's a younger brother, I'm a younger brother, and my older brother is friends with Alec, and I'm friends with Billy. So it was like one of those things where it's like, we're kind of the nicer younger brothers. People, no offense, that they can be a little intense, the older brothers, because they got a lot on their shoulders. So Billy and I always got along, and I thought it would be really fun to see him get that harder edge that his brother has.
And he did,
because in real life he's not, he's not really like that. So it was really,
he's such a sweet person.
Yeah, he's such a great guy.
I ran into him at an airport once, but yeah, he did a really good job in the movie.
Yeah, he's out there again. He really he wants his acting career. He loves acting too. So it's like everybody's out there wanting to work.
That's right. What are the frustrations that you ran into with distribution?
Oh, like, please,
But
let's not think negative. Like, we have this distribution company, Buffalo 8. Look, there's a buffalo right behind. So they're really, really like transparent. They're very organized. They like are good. They have a good portfolio. I'm loving them. Like the film is not out there yet. Like, but like they seem to be like. I'm really happy. I feel really blessed. Like they wanted our movie. I know like they don't get any movie. Like I heard that from different people. So like it's going super smooth. They're really nice people. Yeah.
And I'm like Robert Shaw in Jaws. I'm like, this is the USS Indianapolis. We're swimming sharks, nuclear subs and sharks, and they're devouring us. Every second I'm just traumatized by my experience. That's the problem with so much of the movie, and I mean, I guess anything, but movies, we all get traumatized by this stuff. So like, I'm just trying to not like live in the trauma that I've had from movies, and just, because it is a new world, and each movie is different, each new movie, and distribution now is totally different than what it was, than say Laemmle. Yeah.
It's just a very difficult market for indie films right now, and like they're doing their best, like it's just that it's a very weird
well time. It's great that you guys are doing 3 weeks theatrical to start off with, 3 different theaters. A lot of movies don't get that these days. A lot of indie movies don't get that. So it's Ian, do you have any questions to wrap things up?
I do actually, because you're talking about, you know, some ups and downs within the industry. You had an overall positive experience making BitterSweet, so much that, you know, Gabriela, you want to go on to either co-direct or become an executive producer, but not a producer. I want to ask about, earlier we mentioned that when you got that first cut back from your editor, you'd sent him 2.5 hours, he came back with 85 and a very odd choice of a score that was very downbeat. And you said that for 3 days, you didn't know what you were going to do. It sounded like you were kind of bummed out. How did you pick yourselves up and decide to move forward? Because if you're in a funk like that for 3 days, getting something back from somebody else who's reshaping it into something they see the movie as that you might not necessarily see it as, I imagine there's some self-doubt. There's a question of, can we move forward with this? So how did you, again, decide to pick up and march on?
Well, okay, so let me just, so like, it wasn't that it was bad. It was
Right.
It was really good. I was like, is this it? Do we just dump it out now? Is that our movie? And again, we had the 3 days of the crucifixion or whatever, and it took us some time to rise from the dead, but it became, again, communicating with each other. For me, it became from two things. Luckily I have experience, and I knew, okay, start playing with the music, it'll start changing the levity. But then the second thing is I started talking to Gabby, and I started saying, God, do you remember we were doing it, the humor, and there was some jokes, there was some funny things that we had? And she was like, yeah. And you just remember, and you're like, don't you want that in there again? Yeah. And then it was just like, oh, we can just get another editor and we can just shape it, So it just became the process.
More comedic, like,
Once we decided,
like 4 editors.
Yeah. But once you decide kind of what the problem is, even if it is a problem, which for us it just was, and then you just kind of you regroup, and you're in Act 3 now. You got to storm the castle.
Soundtrack, pretty much. And then to look good, it was the color, and of course you need to have a good sound mix. So, but like in the editing and the music, we could change the. Yeah.
This version that's going out now is more of an entertaining thing for general public, I think. I think the earlier version might have been too bleak and art house.
I think so. Again, I just, like, I didn't want, so there's that, like, Woody Allen has those endings, like, Husbands and Wives, and where it's like, it's like, I didn't want it to be a negative thing that these guys, the home sweet home in the end. It just I didn't want to be this, like, existential quandary of, like, what is domestication in life, and, like, we're trapped no matter what we do, and, like, it just wasn't the message for this story. It just, like, again, as an artist, you have, luckily we didn't have anybody like demanding we make the movie a certain way, which is why we didn't end up going with that person who wanted to go to Netflix.
And also I think you just feel it's not there yet, like it's not feeling like, like that's the final thing. And then we kept, like, going into
like different drafts, like writing different drafts of the story.
And I went way beyond, like, I was just thinking of this today. Like, I feel like if it was for Steven, like, we had stopped, like, way before, and I was like, nope, it's not done. And I went, like, until, like, I watch it, and I couldn't see a thing, like, until it was perfect in my eyes. So then, like, even, like, after it was perfect in my eyes, if somebody else says, oh, I saw, I'm like, I don't care. I don't see it. I saw so many things, and I, like, and I fix it. And now, like, it's the best, like, I could make it. And, but I went all the way. I didn't give up. I didn't do the thing, oh, you have to let it go at a certain point. I didn't let it go until it was like, okay, now I can watch this and watch it and feel there's, like, it's like a diamond, like I took all the corners until, like, I felt like this is the best this thing can be.
I think
way to go.
But I mean, on that note, I'm obviously, because I'm too much more of the, you can always change the music, and there's always a new way to rewrite it. As a screenwriter, it's like you're always finding that perfect thing that there's always another way, but, like, at some point you just have to just let it be.
Deadlines, screening deadlines come up. That's usually when I end the movie. All right, gotta go. It has to be delivered to the theater. Let's go.
Well, I just want to say the fact that you both had this problem and you kind of attacked it together and you leaned on each other to come up with a creative solution of like, well, yeah, we can change the music and we can get a different editor. Turns out there were 4 of them. I think that's a really inspiring kind of message for people who are trying to get into, making films or making any kind of art. There is this tendency to kind of go lone wolf depending on what medium you're working in, but being able to find the people that you can rely on that share your vision and will not let you give up on that dream, I think is very key. And I think that's really cool hearing your story. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, great discussion. Steven, I'll call you on FaceTime when this is done to talk about business stuff.
All right. Hey, yeah, where's the show?
Everyone in the area, go see the movie.
Well, right now we're live, but we have the screenings coming up next week at the Laemmle Theaters. It's Tuesday the 10th, Wednesday the 11th, and Friday the 13th. So there's going to be some I saw cast and crew Q&As.
But we're going to the 19th, though. We're open from the 10th to the 19th. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are just opening days.
Okay, so you're going all the way through the 19th. Well, that's great, and the information will be on the Laemmle site, which I'm going to link, or it is linked below right now, so people can go right now.
That's right.
While I'm talking and order tickets if they like.
So wait, I guess yeah. So if we're doing that, then let me just throw out other movies that people might, what are other comps you'd throw out? If you like, somebody threw out. I mean, for me, I love like Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems. Like it can be that kind of that tense insanity. Like you always say, Flirting with Disaster, which is like just that dysfunctional family dramedy comedy stuff.
Funny, very funny and unpredictable.
Yeah. So if you like those kind of movies, I guess there's a little bit of Marriage Story in there, but it's not that depressing.
Not too much.
No.
Thank you so much, guys, for having us. That was
great discussion. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out and talking about BitterSweet. This has been a
congratulations on getting your thing done.
Yes,
thanks, guys.
And I will say for those out there who have enjoyed this discussion, if you like this discussion, please like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Check down below for all the information regarding this film that's coming out next week. Follow Steve and Gabriela. I'm gonna put your Instagram up there. I'll do that later because I didn't know about it till just this show. Sujewa, you've got 53 spaceships going on your GoFundMe. That information is down below, along with links to your other 5,000 sites and things that you're doing. You're a maniac. But yes, this has been IndieSeen Special Edition for BitterSweet. Go check it out next week. And later when it's on demand, if you don't happen to be on the LA area. But yeah, so till next time.
Go take a trip to LA.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Take a trip to LA and go see the movie, and then come back and tell all your friends.
Hang out with those two.
We're giving away free tickets.
Wait, no. Don't advertise that. That's false advertising.
Hang out with those two at the movie theater.
Yes. Well, until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care, and we are out, kind of.